When the world heard that Elon Musk had a message to share, the air itself seemed to pause. The headline read like something out of science fiction: 1 second left, Elon Musk's message stuns everyone. Nobody knew what it meant. 1 second left for what? Was it a warning? A revelation? A challenge? But as people waited, as screens across continents flickered and hearts leaned closer to that electric silence, what truly mattered wasn't the man or the mystery, it was what those words stirred inside people everywhere. 1 second left. It sounds simple, but it carries the weight of every dream postponed, every idea that died in hesitation, every moment we told ourselves, maybe later. Musk's message wasn't about rockets or electric cars or Mars. It was about time, the most relentless force in the universe, and how we treat it as if we have an endless supply. But there's always a clock ticking somewhere, even if we refuse to listen. Every revolution begins with awareness, a single thought that breaks through noise and fear. Musk's story, whether people admire or criticize him, has always been about one truth: the refusal to wait. The refusal to accept that good enough is good enough. When he said there's 1 second left, it wasn't a countdown to destruction, it was a wake-up call to creation. It was a reminder that history doesn't wait for anyone who hesitates. Most people live their lives like there's always tomorrow. They tell themselves they'll start that company later, they'll chase that dream when it's safer, they'll change their life when it's convenient. But tomorrow is the most dangerous illusion of all. Tomorrow is where potential goes to die. Musk understood that. Every one of his ventures, SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, even the wild dream of colonizing Mars, began not when conditions were perfect, but when they were impossible. He made the leap because he knew waiting would mean surrendering. 1 second left isn't a number. It's a feeling. It's that heartbeat before everything changes, before you send the message, before you take the risk. Before you tell the world who you really are. That single second separates ordinary people from those who rewrite history. Think about it: every great innovation, every act of courage, every impossible triumph began with a moment that could have gone either way. The Wright brothers had a second before the first flight, the second between failure and flight. Edison had a second before he found the right filament, after thousands of failures. Steve Jobs had a second before Apple's comeback, when belief mattered more than evidence. And Musk had a second before the Falcon 1's fourth launch, after 3 disastrous failures that nearly ended SpaceX forever. That fourth launch succeeded. 1 second before that ignition, he didn't know it would work. He just believed it had to. That's the essence of his message: belief doesn't wait for certainty. Action doesn't wait for approval. The universe rewards those who move, not those who hesitate. When Musk speaks of humanity as a multiplanetary species, many dismiss it as fantasy. But that dream, wild as it sounds, is rooted in one of the deepest human truths: survival requires motion. Progress demands risk. To stand still, even for a moment too long, is to let fear win. The same rule applies not just to civilization, but to the individual. You. Me. Every one of us has our own Mars to reach, our own launch failures to endure. Our own 1 second left before it's too late to begin. If you could hear that clock, if you could see the seconds of your life counting down, would you still waste them on doubt? On waiting for permission? Musk's message, stripped of all the noise and spectacle, is really about confronting that terrifying truth: we are running out of time, not time to survive, perhaps, but time to live. Time to build. Time to do something that matters before the light fades. He often says, when something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. That's not bravado, it's clarity. Most people wait for the odds to be in their favor. But if the odds are good, the dream is small. Great dreams are defined by their impossibility. They require you to face 1,000 reasons to quit and keep going anyway. That's what separates dreamers from doers. Imagine that moment, 1 second left, as a mirror. What would you see? Would you see regrets, excuses, ideas left unfinished? Or would you see motion, defiance, creation? That reflection tells you everything about how you're living right now. Because you are in that second. We all are. Every tick is borrowed time. Musk's message stunned the world not because of who said it, but because of what it forced us to confront. We live in an era of comfort, distraction, and noise. We scroll more than we think. We consume more than we create. We wait for miracles, unaware that every invention we admire was made by someone who simply decided not to wait any longer. The truth is, nobody is coming to save us. No billionaire, no government, no miracle. The people who change the world aren't waiting for orders, they act while the rest of the world debates. They fail, they bleed, they rise. Again and again. That's what Musk's life represents, not perfection, but persistence. There's something magnetic about the idea of 1 second left. It creates tension, urgency, meaning. It's as if the universe is whispering, "What will you do now?" It's the call that wakes up the creator, the entrepreneur. The artist, the human being who still remembers they were born to build. Every dream has a ticking clock attached to it. Opportunities age. Passion fades if you don't feed it. The courage to start, to leap, to risk, is like oxygen. It's finite unless replenished through action. Musk's entire life is a case study in this truth. When he risked everything, his PayPal fortune, his reputation, even his sanity, he was chasing something bigger than safety. He was chasing meaning, and meaning doesn't come cheap. It demands sacrifice, sleepless nights, ridicule, failure, and the courage to stand when every sign tells you to stop. That's why his message stunned the world. Because beneath all the technology and spectacle, what he was really saying was this: time is running out. Stop waiting. Start building. Maybe your dream isn't to colonize Mars or revolutionize energy. Maybe it's simpler, to start that business, to write that book, to become who you know you can be. But the principle is the same. Every second you wait is a second stolen by fear. 1 second left is not a warning. It's a gift. It's a reminder that you still have that one heartbeat, that one breath, that one final chance to begin before the clock resets or stops forever. And maybe, just maybe, that's what Musk wanted us to feel, that rush of urgency, not to escape the planet, but to awaken the one thing that makes us human, the will to move forward. No matter how small the step, because if there's 1 second left, that means there's still time. And as long as there's time, there's hope. The moment after the message went out, silence rippled through the world. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. Across cities and villages, screens glowed in dark rooms, people stared, half in disbelief, half in recognition. Something about those words, 1 second left, reached inside and tugged at the human core, that quiet place that knows how fragile every dream really is. It was not the drama of the countdown that mattered. It was the realization that, in some sense, each of us is living inside our own final second, and what we do with it decides the story we leave behind. In that second, people began to think differently. Not about technology or wealth or fame, but about motion. About doing. The spark that moves civilization forward is not genius, it is restlessness, the refusal to stay still when everything says, wait. Musk's life, stripped of its noise, is a long conversation with that restlessness. Every time he failed, he used the rubble as fuel. Every time he was told no, he heard not yet. The world called him reckless, but the truth is, progress has always been built by the reckless. To live with urgency does not mean living in panic. It means living awake. It means noticing that the minutes are not infinite, that the people you love are aging. That the ideas inside you will one day fade if you don't give them shape. We spend years believing there will always be more time, more chances, more seasons, more tomorrows. But then one day, time runs out quietly. The message Musk gave, whether intentional or symbolic, pierced that illusion. It reminded us that greatness has a deadline, and the deadline is always now. Think about the people who changed humanity, not the names carved in textbooks, but the countless others whose courage went unrecorded. Farmers who invented new ways to feed their land. Engineers who built bridges in silence. Teachers who refused to give up on impossible students. All of them lived as if every day mattered. Because it did. The universe rewards urgency not in wealth but in meaning. You become alive the moment you act as though time is precious. 1 second left could be your project gathering dust on the shelf. It could be the apology you never gave. It could be the love you never expressed, the dream you never dared to build. The second is a mirror of everything unfinished, waiting for courage to arrive. The tragedy is not that life ends. It's that we wait too long to begin it. Musk's way of thinking, though sometimes extreme, grows from a simple truth: the impossible becomes possible only when someone stops asking if it's realistic. Every innovation looks foolish until it works. Electric cars were a joke. Private rockets were madness. Brain-computer links were science fiction. Yet they happened because he lived as if the clock were always at 1. When you live that way, you stop treating effort as optional. You begin to see fear as a compass. The stronger the fear, the more vital the path ahead. Fear is a strange teacher. It tells you exactly where you need to go and then dares you not to move. The people who succeed are not fearless, they are fluent in fear. They know how to walk beside it, to let it sharpen their focus rather than steal their motion. Musk has said that starting SpaceX was staring into the abyss and eating glass. That is what every creator feels when facing the unknown, that raw combination of pain and purpose. Yet it is within that discomfort that we become who we are meant to be. The essence of that one remaining second is transformation. When you realize there's almost no time left, your priorities reorganize themselves. You stop needing approval. You stop defending mediocrity. You start asking better questions. What matters most? What legacy am I building? What if I stopped doubting and simply began? That clarity is worth more than all the time you thought you had. Imagine waking up tomorrow with a clock over your bed counting down from 86,400, the number of seconds in a day. You'd feel each one slip away, grain by grain, into memory. That's the reality we ignore. The miracle is not that we have infinite time, it's that we get a fresh 86,400 seconds each morning. Most of them are spent unconsciously, scrolling, worrying, waiting. Musk's message was a jolt against that unconscious drift. It told us to treat the seconds like currency, to invest them in something that multiplies meaning rather than noise. People often mistake urgency for impatience. But true urgency is quiet. It's the hum of purpose that makes you get up after failure. The internal rhythm that refuses to stop even when no one's watching. The greatest builders, from scientists to artists, live in that state. They are never truly satisfied because satisfaction breeds stillness, and stillness is the death of creation. There's a paradox in all of this. To live with 1 second left, you must also learn patience. The patience to endure, to persist through slow progress, to keep going when reward seems far away. Musk's urgency coexists with persistence. When a rocket exploded, he didn't pivot away, he rebuilt. When Tesla nearly collapsed, he slept in the factory. That combination, urgency in vision, patience in execution, is the secret rhythm of transformation. We often underestimate what a single decision can do. 1 second can be the difference between trying and surrendering. between speaking truth and staying silent, between changing history and fading quietly into it. That's why those words resonated. They compressed the entire human struggle into one heartbeat. And maybe that's the message hidden within his message, that the real countdown is internal. The world doesn't end when the clock hits 0, it ends when we stop believing our next action matters. Hope isn't an emotion, it's a discipline. You practice it by acting when logic says don't. In that sense, the stunned silence after Musk's declaration wasn't confusion, it was reflection. Billions of people felt the same electric thought: what if I've been waiting too long? That's where change begins, not in external revolutions, but in private awakenings. The moment you see time as limited, you start living unlimitedly. Maybe you have 1 second left to forgive someone, to build something, to start again. That second is a door, open it, and life rushes through. Some people misunderstood the message. They thought 1 second left was about endings, the last moment before collapse, a final warning. But those who listened closely realized it was about beginnings. Every ending hides a doorway. The final second of doubt is the first second of courage. The same clock that counts down also counts up. Every second lost in fear is one that can be reborn in motion. Musk's message wasn't predicting an end, it was igniting a beginning. He has said many times that his goal is to make life multiplanetary, but that idea, stripped of its cosmic frame, is deeply human. To be multiplanetary is simply to expand beyond fear, to live beyond comfort zones, to believe there's more to existence than survival. You don't need a rocket to explore the universe. Every time you break your own limitations, you are crossing a new frontier, and yet, how few of us dare to do that. Most people build walls around their potential and call them reality. They protect themselves from disappointment but also from greatness. The truth is, we are all born builders. Children know this instinctively, they dream without needing permission. But somewhere along the way, we replace imagination with caution. We begin to calculate risk instead of chasing wonder. Musk's 1 second left was an invitation to return to that childlike audacity, to dream so wildly that failure becomes irrelevant. When you realize there's almost no time left, you stop chasing validation. You stop fearing rejection. You understand that the only tragedy greater than failing is never daring. Musk faced ridicule for nearly every venture he began. Experts mocked the idea of reusable rockets. Analysts said Tesla would die. The public called him delusional for thinking humans could live on Mars. But what if he had listened? The world would be smaller, dimmer, and quieter. Progress always looks ridiculous before it looks inevitable. There's a pattern to how the world reacts to vision. First, it laughs. Then it resists. Then it imitates. That cycle repeats every time someone dares to move first. Musk's message pierced that pattern because it spoke directly to the inertia in our own hearts. We all have dreams we've hidden behind practicality, waiting for a perfect moment that never comes. But perfection is just procrastination disguised as wisdom. The people who build the future don't wait for stars to align, they light their own. 1 second left is a confrontation, a mirror held up to the excuses we make. We say we're not ready, not experienced enough, not rich enough, not talented enough. But readiness is an illusion. No one is ready to leap into the unknown. They simply decide to do it anyway. That single decision transforms hesitation into history. There's something profoundly freeing about urgency. When you know time is short, clarity sharpens. The noise of doubt fades. You realize that the opinions of others are as temporary as everything else. What remains is motion, the only thing that truly belongs to you. The second before you act is always the hardest. After that, momentum carries you forward. In interviews, Musk often shrugs off his achievements. He talks more about what's unfinished than what's done. That's not arrogance, it's awareness. The moment you think you've arrived, you begin to decay. Success is not a destination but a direction, a perpetual push toward better. The 1 second left mentality keeps you hungry. It reminds you that the next challenge is always waiting, and comfort is the silent killer of progress. Think of your own life. How many times have you paused at the edge of something important, a new path, a confession, a dream, and chosen safety instead? That moment is the second Musk is talking about. It's the second before the leap. Most people never make it past that heartbeat. But if you do, if you act, everything changes. The universe has a strange habit of rewarding motion. It doesn't guarantee success, but it guarantees growth. Musk's story is not about wealth or intelligence. It's about velocity. When things fall apart, he accelerates instead of retreating. That's why his message felt universal, because deep down, everyone recognizes the power of movement. We are not built for stillness. The human spirit thrives in motion, in pursuit, in creation. That's why stagnation feels like dying, because it is, in slow motion. The greatest danger is not failure but numbness, that quiet acceptance of maybe someday. Someday is a thief that steals the seconds you think you don't need. The truth is, every extraordinary thing begins with an ordinary second chosen differently. The difference between those who build and those who dream is not talent but timing. They both have ideas, but only one acts before the clock runs out. When Musk talks about humanity needing to wake up, it's easy to dismiss it as exaggeration. But look around, comfort has lulled us into a trance. We are surrounded by abundance yet paralyzed by choice. We know more than ever, yet we risk less than ever. We mistake knowing for doing. The 1 second left message is a crack in that trance. It's a voice saying, wake up. You're running out of time to be who you were meant to be. And maybe that's what stuns people most, not the words themselves, but the recognition that he's right. We can build rockets, but we still hesitate to build ourselves. We seek meaning in machines, but not in our minutes. The message struck because it felt personal, like it was addressed to each person individually. You, the one waiting to start, the one pretending there's time. To live with 1 second left is not to live in fear, it's to live in focus. It's to understand that life is not measured in years but in decisions. Some people live 90 years without ever truly living. Others burn brighter in 30 because they refuse to waste their seconds on hesitation. Musk's message wasn't a countdown to destruction, it was an invitation to ignition. There's a quiet power in realizing that time scarcity gives it meaning. If we were immortal, nothing would matter. Deadlines, endings, losses, these are what make creation urgent and love real. 1 second left is not about panic but about purpose. It's about recognizing that every moment could be the one that defines everything that follows.